Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to move my bald cypress grove from the middle of the bench. As you can see, the bench goes way into the back. And this pot started at the very end of this bench in very dense shade because I wanted it to stay moist, so I got the seeds to germinate. So I have dragged it this far, but I can't work on it from here because I can't get to the front. Whichever the front is, I haven't quite decided which the front is, but I just can't get to the front, regardless of whether it's over here or over here. So I'm going to move all the rest of this stuff that's on the same bench, and the cypress grove will end up at the end here. So right away, the next group of plants, these are actually edible onions that needed to be weeded and then planted in the ground. This is what's left of a culinary sage plant. And it's still got some growth, but, it's a giant waste of space. And then behind them, I have a nursery pot that's been cut down to turn into like a seed bed or a cutting bed that is literally empty. And then on top of it is an 8-inch bulb pan with gazania daisy flowers, which also can go somewhere else. They're eventually going to go in the ground in my flower garden. So if we take that and the sage and all these onions, we have a huge section clear. And then we have a couple of ilex shillings. These were both collected out of the ground. One here, which is actually just doing beautifully, and a second one here that has a very cool hollow and is also recovered very nicely. They're all a year old, and they're in fairly large pots, but I don't think they're insurmountable about moving them. So the first order of business is to take these elms, and these are seedlings that are a couple years old. They've all had one cutback, and I'm going to feature these guys in a totally separate video. Right now I just want to move them out of the way because the grove, the pot, is just way too heavy, way too ungainly, almost impossible for me to actually lift. So I'm just going to drag it. And I want most of this bench to be hardy material. So the bald cypress, actually, I want it to get cold so that they go more dormant. As you can see, there's still so much green, and they're turning brown a little bit. But for me to really work them, I want them to be completely dormant and, basically bare. The shillings are also a temperate plant that do not need any cold protection of any kind, so they will stay on this bench. Then I just have a whole bunch of weird stuff like these succulent guys that I grew from seed that are cool plants, but they ain't bonsai. And then I have a bunch of little guys, peppers, and they make a little tiny, tiny pepper. And they're called bird peppers. And I have decided some of them are in pretty sad shape. Here's a future mame. Because I decided to actually play with these guys and turn them into bonsai. Just goof around. And that video is coming up next too. Here's a seedling avocado that has not yet emerged. So, and here's a couple of dianthus? No, yeah, dianthus flowers. So much of this stuff can just come off this bench. So moving the bald cypress grove is also going to help me get much more organized. And then the video I did yesterday where I moved this critter, which I'm super happy with the way that came out. I have a bunch of empty space here, and the plants that are going to go back here are all tropical trees, so that if I do get a freeze, I will set up a frame and put plastic over the top to keep them from freezing. So this bench needs to be all tropical trees. And right now I have another seedling batch of bald cypress. Here's another 6-inch pot of bald cypress. And they don't need to be protected from the cold at all. Like I said, I want it to be cold. So those guys, this one even looks like it's still got some brand new growth, even in the middle of December. So I've got my work cut out for me, but it won't be an ordeal. It'll be a labor of love. So I'm going to get started on pulling the elm trees. So now we're on the other end of the bench. So the elm trees here are going to get moved, and that will give me about 2 feet that I can drag the cypress grove. And then I'll probably just stick the elms where the cypress grove is. So take them off this bench, drag the cypress pot, put the elms back on this bench. And that's going to be kind of the waltz that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to get started on that. Phase 1 is complete. And so I moved it from above this cinder block upright to this cinder block upright. I do not want it sitting in the middle of the bench. This next 8-foot section of wood, even though it looks kind of crusty, is far newer and far better shape than this section of wood, which is so crusty that you can poke your finger through. So every time I move it, it goes to the next upright. And of course it's going to end up directly over the very last group of cinder blocks. So it's coming along. I have the elm trees over there on the tropical bench, but they're going to come back over here. And I also allowed the bald cypress grove to dry out, so it's much lighter than it would be if it was completely soaked. And I was able to muscle the shillings, just pick it up and move it over. And in fact, the shillings was far heavier because I had to pick it up than the bald cypress. So we've only got a few more minutes. And of course, since I'm pausing the video, the next time you'll see it, it'll on the end of the bench, it will be instantaneous. See? I told you it wouldn't take long. So here we are in its final resting place, which is probably not true, but it's going to be so much easier to work on. So you may be asking yourself, why am I taking a video of it from behind, from the back? And that's because the sun has broken up over the trees, and if I tried to take a video from what's going to be the front, there's just a massive glare from the sun, so I just didn't get it done in time. And I'm not going to discuss what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to do an entirely separate video once I'm ready to work on it. And as you can see, it's going dormant. There's a lot of brown, but the tips are still quite green, and I really want the whole thing to go dormant. And there's certainly some work that needs to be done. Not a lot, but we'll talk about my philosophy on what I want to do with this and how I want to achieve that in a completely separate video that just features this tree alone and not all the other, moving the other rigmarole around. So if you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. When you like, it sends the algorithm to more people. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll be able to watch me actually work this guy. Is a group of 30 trees a guy? And that's coming very soon. Probably in another month. I work all of my deciduous temperate trees between the solstice and about the end of January. And then please leave a comment. It really wasn't that hard. And a big part was that it was very dry, so actually everything is dry. Another windy day, which means water, 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 even though it's the middle of December. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to watch the actual transformation of this guy, and I will see you in the next video. Nope, I forgot. I'm going to leave some end screens where you can watch the origination of this guy. And like I said, these guys are only a year old, so you can click on those screens, and I'll also leave a place for you to subscribe. So thanks again for watching, and have a great day.